Hi, welcome to the Drama Free Living Podcast. It's Dennis and Lisa McIntee. Lisa, this is one of my favorite things to do with you.
I know. It's so much fun because we get to just chat and we actually get some creative time to kind of talk together and just throw some ideas around that maybe we wouldn't do otherwise.
Yeah. So what we kind of thought maybe would be fun is to take a product that really has created just a lot of value for people, Team Talks, and kind of divide over the next couple weeks just some of the ideas from Team Talks. And so one idea is, and this is really in month 3 of Team Talks, is this whole idea of the advantage of evaluating.
Yeah.
Right. So when you think about, like, at least what are some advantages of evaluating, like in your mind? What are you thinking? Like when I say the advantage of evaluating, like what hits your brain?
So for me, I think it would be going over just the different things that have happened in the past and how it's impacted us. What were the pros of it, the cons of it, and I'm always looking at how can we make things better. Yeah. And so that to me is the advantage of evaluating is what we did was good, but how could we make it great? Or what we did was great, but how can we make it incredible?
Well, and I think, Lisa, it's like the value of every experience really is in what you learn from the experience. And if you don't evaluate experiences, you don't learn from them, and then you almost waste the experience.
Yeah.
And I never want to waste an experience. And even sometimes, so I was asking people in a workshop the other week, I said, well, what do you learn more from, a book or an experience? Right? An experience. And then it gets even more interesting because what do you typically learn more? Do you typically learn more from a pleasant experience or a painful experience? And the truth is we typically learn more from a painful experience. And so as we're going
I don't know that I like that.
I don't like it at all. But isn't it true? Right? It's like think
because it forces you to process through what is going on, that painful experience. A pleasant experience is you enjoy that, but you don't necessarily aren't forced to process through and say what went wrong.
Yeah, and think about it, if you don't learn how to evaluate that experience, it's almost like you waste the pain. It's like you're going to go through the pain. I mean, Lisa, you and I, we have friends like just talking about the pandemic, right? And we have friends that, man, they were the same after the pandemic as they were before the pandemic. And I thought, wow, you just wasted a good pandemic. Not that it was a good pandemic, right? But wow, you went through that pain. We all went through that pain, but you didn't change, you didn't learn, you didn't develop, and I thought, wow, well, if you're going to go through the pain, the pain needs to have a payoff.
Okay, so I don't know if I fully disagree. I mean, I don't know if I fully agree with what you're saying.
And you typically don't ever agree.
I have the mic. Okay. I have the mic here.
Go ahead.
No, I don't know if I fully agree on what you're saying on people. They went through the pandemic and they were the same before as they were after and wasting a good pandemic. Because how can you ever go through an experience and be the same going through that experience?
If you don't evaluate it. If you don't evaluate it, you don't allow it to develop you. You don't learn from it. And I think this really creates just some – I think to do this, you have to have a lot of awareness.
Yeah.
As you're going through the experience, almost think about, okay, what went well, what didn't go, or even sometimes get real clear because your emotions have power.
Okay, so right? Gallup poll. They came out with this and they said 50% of Americans experience stress during most of their workday. Most of their workday is highly stressful.
Yep.
And then the American Psychological Association said that 67% of adults 18 to 34 that stress impacts their ability to focus they just can't focus because they are too highly stressed. And this totally destroys our confidence. If you can't focus and if you're so under stress that you can't do what you're good at or do what you love or do what you're being paid for, then it's going to really damage your capability. It's going to damage your earning potential. Your confidence will be destroyed because if you can't do what you're good at, then what good is it?
Well, and so Lisa, think about this. I think as we go through stress, and it's not if we're not stressed or we are stressed, but a little bit as we're going through this, I think we need to ask, what is this teaching me? Or what am I learning from it? And we have the stress converter, which is a great tool that a lot of clients really found very helpful when we share it with them. But it's this idea: what happens when we're in stress is that I think confidence is increasing or concerns are increasing and confidence is decreasing. And it's almost like when I get under stress, it's typically some kind of fear. And so always asking myself as I'm going through that experience of stress, it's like, well, okay, Dennis, what are you afraid of? Or what are you anxious about? Or what are you concerned about? And almost like whatever that answer is, like make that your focus. And in that way, is stress good? Well, I just utilize stress to actually be a benefit for me instead of it sitting and baking in it and just kind of allowing it to be a detriment. And really, when you think about it, it's like, who can tell you what a stressful experience is? Only you. Only you know what it's right. And
you are your doctor.
I guess so, right? Or your Aura Ring, right?
Your Aura Ring.
And listen, we will put a link in the show notes to Aura Ring, okay? Because I'm loving mine. Lisa got it for me for Father's Day. So get yourself an Aura Ring. It really helps just kind of measure some of the stress.
And sleep. And what is it? The readiness score?
Yeah. So you can be ready, resilient score. And listen, we don't even get an affiliate code. Just go get an Aura Ring, okay? It's really great. But as you're going through these experiences, like really learning to sort of measure what your emotions tell you and am I stressed, am I not stressed, right? Because it really kind of destroys, if you're not careful, at least, and I think even as simple, so a couple months ago, you and I were putting the duvet on the comforter, right? And just as I'm going through it,
the duvet cover on the duvet.
Thank you. Okay. I don't even know what these things are called. But as we're going through it, I was just like, that's not enjoyable. This is not a lot of fun. But instead of thinking like, oh, well, I got to do it. Well, it's just how it is. This is our lot in life. Well, it's part of home ownership. Or the thought was, okay, well, how could I delegate it? Or how could I, get it off my plate? And I think just going through some of those, so we've got an evaluator. We just want to kind of talk about it. And it's really in month 3 of Team Talks, but we wanted to share.
The strategic builder?
Yeah, the strategic builder, right? And it's this whole idea as you go through an experience, you want to ask yourself what went well, right? And kind of look back at the past and really kind of build your confidence. And then go, okay, well, what didn't go well, right? Because with everything, something's working and something's not working. And really getting very, very good because your eyes only see and your ears only hear what your brain is looking for. And so you want to get really good with looking at what's working, what's not working. And that's kind of the past. But then I think the magic question is knowing what you know now, what could you do moving forward?
Yeah.
And this could be even hey, we're doing something so well, and then we forget about doing it again. And success leaves clues. So there's a reason why things work. Right. So what didn't go well and how do you improve it? But it's because if we're not careful, Lisa, people don't really have a bigger future. They just have the past that's rehashed over and over again. And if we're going to have a bigger future, it's we've got to take the past and be able to learn from it. Because almost that past it really becomes raw material. Right? It kind of becomes this raw material that you take from what you have in your past and you use that to create a bigger future. Yeah.
And you know what else I really like about the strategic builder that's in, month 3 of Team Talks? Yeah. The strategic builder, some of those other fields to answer is if I could be excellent at one thing, what would it be? And what's the main thing I can do that makes the highest contribution? And what do I need to start doing? And these are all awareness questions and awareness tools to strategically build up your confidence, what you're doing, where you're going, and how you can contribute to your workplace and to the environment around you.
Yeah, well, and it's almost like you want to wrap your gifts around your highest contribution. And really we get compensated by our contribution. And so it's almost like if I want better compensation, how do we make a bigger contribution? Well, the way for me to make a bigger contribution is continue to be more and more aware of what I'm gifted and uniquely able and capable to do, and then figuring out how can I leverage that in even a greater way.
Absolutely. And there are so many things that happen in life. Sometimes we are self-destructive, but sometimes life is just destructive on us. And we were actually just talking to someone a few hours ago, and they're in the middle of going through a messy personal situation. And they're an incredibly talented person, and they have so much to offer and so much to give, and a very full past experience, both work and personally, businesses that they've been in and been involved in. But right now, because there are things that they're going through personally, this very, very messy situation, there's just not the confidence to be creative. They don't have that confidence to be creative. They have the confidence to just kind of keep putting one foot in front of the other until they can get to that point where that chaos and that mess in their personal life begins to sort through, and then they can put more creative energy into it. And so anytime that we can use things like the strategic builder just to build our confidence, to evaluate, okay, what actually did go well?
Yeah.
What didn't go well? What can I do? And we're putting a positive spin, a positive story behind our experiences rather than just letting us feel beaten down and life beating us down or our work or personal lives. There's all kinds of things that come at us. And sometimes we're just doing good to tread water. But being able to begin to build up our confidence and begin to be able to rehearse our wins, what is going well in our life. And even if it's a sucky situation, there's
always something going well.
There's got to be some positive aspect that you can pull out and kind of pull yourself up by your bootstraps and help yourself. And that reminds me, I was visiting my mom, a few weeks ago, and we were just kind of talking about some of the difficulties that she had gone through when she was a young girl, a young lady, newly married, and just her early adulthood. And she'd gone through some pretty difficult situations. Some of them were things that she had gotten herself in, but a lot of them was just the toughness of life. And she said the one thing that she took away, and if you open up her pantry door and you look up, she's got a sticky note there and it says, "Never give up." And I had noticed that, and I had never heard that story before. But I was in her pantry and I opened the door and I saw that sticky note and I saw that "never give up." This was just maybe the day before. And I thought, I've never seen that before. And I was like, well, I wonder what the story is behind that, or what that means, or because I've never really heard that. And so we were just having a conversation, and she was saying that is, I was like, what is one thing that you just have really taken away through your life, through your negative life experiences?
That was a great question you asked her.
I think it came from you. So thank you for that. Seriously.
No, it didn't really come from me. I don't remember.
I think that the conversation prompt came from you, which I tweaked it and so good job.
I was just thinking that's a great question.
And so but she said, never give up. And that was a lens that she was utilizing as to look at her past and evaluate her past, and even to help herself forward in the future is never give up. It might be suck. Things are going bad right now, or it might be roses and unicorns and rainbows and balloons. But it just gives us that idea of, okay, things are going really great now, and I'm going to just relish life and I'm going to celebrate in it. Mm-hmm. And then when it's not going so great, kind of having your own little tent peg, or someone else says, tie a knot at the end of your rope and hang on. It's just that something that you hang on to that gives yourself something positive to evaluate, a positive evaluation tool.
Yeah, and Lisa, and I think because you always give up emotionally before you give up physically. You always give up mentally before you give up physically. Right? And many times even ideas of burnout or stress, they're sort of physical symptoms of something that's going on internally. And the challenge is that people don't evaluate like how I'm even like my body, evaluate like what's going on in my body. I never learned how to like really change what's on the inside of here, because the outside is just a reflection of the inside. Mm-hmm. And so I know, at least even for example, I think I'm physically strong enough to probably do 5 minutes of planks. I have the strength to do 5 minutes of planks. But you know what I don't have? I don't have the mental or emotional strategy to do 30 seconds of a plank, right? It's like 15 seconds into it, I'm like, I'm just done. Right? Because mentally, emotionally.
But if your life depended on it, I bet you could do it.
I bet I could. Right? But it's this whole idea of you always give up emotionally before you give up, physically. And this is why, coming back to like our friend and like the confidence being sort of shaken, it's like, I think as leaders, one of the key things that you have to protect is you got to protect that confidence, right? You have to safeguard your confidence, because we got to do hard things. as leaders, and as really as people, as we continue to grow, it's like for me to go to here to there, there's always something hard that's standing in the way. But for me to do something hard, I've got to have some confidence to step into it. And here's what's fascinating, Lisa, it's who can tell you what's hard?
Yeah. Because
Right?
what's hard for me is completely different than what's hard for you.
Yeah, and this is where, hard, it's very unique, even some of these things. And so I think understanding the principle, it's why we created the context with Team Talks and with the strategic builder, but the content really comes out of you. The content comes out of your team. And just using some of these questions in your team meetings, great prompts to really draw the content out where it really becomes a customizable tool. Because really, here's the thing, your life is customized. Like you customize your life, you customize your leadership, you customize your team, and you get the unique privilege of kind of forming it, how you want it.
Well, and I love what you're saying. It's totally true. It's my life is fully customizable. And yes, there are certain things that I am dealt in life, but beyond those certain things, how I respond to those things is my choice. And anything beyond the scope of what is already dealt to me is also my choice. And I have the power to tweak it and turn it and make it whatever I want. It's the ingredients that you have for a cake. You could be a pineapple upside down cake or it'd be a chocolate cake. I mean, it could be any, but it's going to be a cake. You've got this set prescribed parts of
right.
this. Yes.
Yep.
But what I love about it is in the strategic builder, we've got a section called forecasting.
Yep.
And some of these things are what we can really take these set prescribed things that we are kind of stuck with and we have the opportunity to do with what we will. And they're things like, okay, what do I want personally?
Mm-hmm.
Why do I want it? Another question in the forecasting of the strategic builder is what do I want professionally? Well, why do I want it? And sitting down and really thinking about these things, evaluating these things and thinking about, okay, this is what I've got, but what do I want? But you can't stop at what do I want? You need to really decide why I want it, because the why is going to be the fuel. It's going to be the power. It's going to be the motivation behind what you want. And then a lot of times when we answer the why of what we want, sometimes it completely changes what we actually want. We think we want, a 7,000 square foot house because we want to have lots of space for our kids to have friends over and lots of fun. But then why do we want it? Because we want them to have friends over and have fun. But if we have a 7,000 square foot house, then they're actually going to be over in one corner and we're going to be over in the other corner and we're not really going to be interacting. So maybe I don't want a 7,000 square foot house because it's too big to get lost in. And maybe a 2,500 square foot house just with a fun room would be really all I want. And so really getting clear on the what and getting clear on the why.
Yeah, because then you can customize really what you're building. And Lisa, as you're talking, I was really thinking about here's why it's really important to really get better at evaluating, because the better you are at evaluating, the better you are at forecasting, right? The clearer
that's good.
I'm evaluating, the better I'm forecasting. And really, here's the thing, the future is just a forecast. Right? It's like when you set goals or you plan your future, you're really just forecasting. You're really just going, okay, this is the forecast I see based on what I've evaluated, my past performance, because past performance is indicative of future performance, right? Unless there's sometimes a significant life event that kind of alters things. But, and not that you rehash your past and just bring all that, but there are things that you've learned, and take that learning, right, from your experiences. Take the learning from your experiences, and then you bring that learning into your future. So in that way, you forecast better. But you can't really forecast if you don't know how to evaluate. And I think sometimes like that's the reason we don't set great goals, because we're not really good at evaluating the past. And so I think really getting good and using some of the questions that Lisa gave you, those are fantastic questions to really learn from the past.
And those are all in the strategic builder. They're all written out there. So cheat sheet. Yeah.
There you go. But Lisa just gave it to you. And really, Lisa, I just want to kind of end with this whole idea of what's interesting about the past is it's simply made up. Right? You think about how many times has something happened and you said, well, I saw it this way. And I said, well, I kind of saw it this way. Well, who's right? Mm-hmm. It's like the same event maybe, but different experiences, right? Tell us and so the past is kind of made up. And this whole idea is that your past is your property, and you can go back to the past and go, what went well? and people say, well, you can't say that about the past. Well, sure I can, because it's my past. Hey, who said that didn't? I did. It's my past. It's my property. Hey, this is what I learned from that experience. Well, who said that was what you learned? I did. It's my past. And really kind of taking ownership. And the more ownership I take of the past, the greater ownership I take of the future.
And I love that. Well, and the key for me is to not give my ownership over to someone else.
Yeah.
Do not give my ownership for the past, the present, or the future over to someone else, because I can tend to do that. I can, especially if I'm feeling beaten down, or if it's a tough season of life, or I actually just came off of, 2 weeks of just feeling really cruddy. I mean, I just had my throat was so angry.
Yeah.
It was terrible. And when I'm feeling that, I tend to give ownership up because I just don't have the energy to fight for my own ownership. Whereas I think you're the opposite.
I'm going to take more responsibility.
Right. You're going to take maybe too much ownership. And
I'm going to own your past too. If you're not going to own it, I'll own it too. Here, I'll take it. Right.
Yeah.
And that's a different issue, and that's a different podcast.
And that might require a therapist right there. Which, speaking of which, our therapist taught us a really valuable skill and about writing in the third person.
It is a great way as you're kind of evaluating your past, because the challenge, Lisa, is that you get emotional. Right? You have these past experiences and you get emotional, but when you can learn how to look at it and write it in the third person, for example, like something I'm thinking, wow, as you're writing, okay, this happened. Well, I wonder why Dennis said that. What was going on in Dennis's brain? Dennis did this and Dennis said that. And then what was Dennis? Well, Dennis was thinking that this and this. And, Dennis really felt it. And it's a great way to go, what's the reality? What's a different way to look at it? And when you can look at it in the third person, then you learn faster.
Okay. And so I don't necessarily deal with this like you do.
Yeah.
But what for you happens when you are evaluating it in the first person?
When I'm evaluating it in the first person, I'm very emotional. Right? And it's like that emotion is clouding my learning. Right? As I'm going through in the first person, I tend to get angry, frustrated, irritated, bothered.
Is that when your harsh inner critic kind of comes out?
Absolutely. Right.
Okay.
It's like when that harsh inner critic comes out. And the thing about it is, Lisa, like what we've discovered, most leaders, and the higher you go in leadership, typically the more of an inner critic they have. We have not done a scientific survey on this, okay, just from years and years and working with thousands and thousands of leaders, just people just dealing with that harsh inner critic.
High-driven, high-capacity leaders tend to, by default, have a harsh inner critic, which is what has, in part, made them as successful as they are, because they are so driven, because honestly, they're running for themselves, because they're so harsh on themselves, and they're trying to one-up themselves every moment.
Right. And that needs a therapist to work through. Okay. Another way, right, Lisa, we've made therapists a lot of money. Just referring them on.
We refer our therapist to everyone.
Yeah. So listen, this is.
Or we refer everyone to our therapist. I think that's better said. Okay.
So your big takeaway. We got to kind of. I've got 10 more things to say, but we'll save it for the next episode.
Give me two. Give me 2 of the 10.
So I think really realizing that the better I am at evaluating, because Lisa, today we walked out of a team meeting and I was a little bit just annoyed by some of the rocks for the quarter, because I didn't think maybe they weren't as good as we could have set them. But if I can get better at evaluating the past, I'm going to get better at forecasting the future. And so really taking even a better dive at some of the past experiences, and really digging out some of that learning is a key one. And then I think this whole idea of, every experience is a learning moment. Mm-hmm. And as I'm going through it, it's like, what am I learning from this? What about you? What's the takeaway for you?
Well, first, I was in that same team meeting, and
you were, weren't you?
I was,
hey, welcome.
and thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
I'm glad you were there.
I know. But what I find fascinating, because you were talking about, some of these rocks, some of these quarterly goals that we had put together, like the one in particular that you were very dissatisfied with, I felt was one of the ones that was probably the most successful and really on track and making huge strides and gains and movement. But the interesting thing is I think possibly what threw you off was maybe what it was called, what it was titled. And anyway, but because I thought, man, that one is moving so smoothly and so well. And
well, that's where it's like the same event, and we had two different experiences from that one event. And it's like you make up these experiences. You really do.
Yeah, and you make up the story that goes with them.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So and then you frame the rest of your decisions based on the story that you've told yourself based on that experience.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. Gosh, I just love. I love the forecasting part of the strategic builder.
Yeah.
And just really thinking, okay, what is it that I want personally? What is it? What do I want professionally? And why? Why do I want it?
And getting really clear on
what
that.
is it that's going to drive me when I am sick as a dog and I just don't have the physical, mental, emotional energy to do something? What's going to drive me? What's going to keep me moving?
Yep. So listen, as we're kind of closing, we want to put just in the show notes just a link to Team Talks. Now, Team Talks is a 52-week subscription service where every week you get a leadership, like 5-minute huddle that you can, as a supervisor, as a manager, whether your team is 2 or whether your team is 50, it is a done-for-you leadership development training with a quick video, like a little script, done for you right there. Okay, so we wanted to make it super simple. And what we talked about here in this episode was what month 3 is. So it's really a 12-month subscription service.
And each month covers a different topic. Yeah. And we really break down that particular information over the course of the weeks. So you can kind of take a deeper dive. And it honestly, it takes the homework out of figuring out, okay, I mean, we need to talk about this, and this in the team meeting, but what am I going to teach my team? What am I going to bring them? How am I going to encourage them forward? And how can we develop our team to be better?
Yeah, so it's there for you and as a resource. And I think our work is done here, Lisa. So we'll see you next time on the Drama Free Living podcast.